Alright, we're good.
Solid. Oh, let's put a marker for ringtone.
Well, I know what it is because I just, it's 53 seconds.
Oh, okay. I always forget that you can look at numbers. You can measure things.
Numbers.
Just forget that measurement exists.
Hello, and welcome to Fools in Fiction. We're back on campus recording in person. Finn is across from me.
I don't know why you air quoted in person. I'm right here.
Well, yeah, but like, it is not like when we used to record in person where we're like huddled next to each other.
No.
There is social distance between us, and we are both wearing masks. Hopefully that does not make the audio sound too bad.
Yeah, I think it should be fine.
So this week, we're sorry for taking a couple of weeks off. There's just been some stuff getting in the way. The real world is cruel, as it turns out. So the basis for this episode was that last week,
yes.
We were drinking and decided to watch the Les Mis movie.
With descriptive audio.
Descriptive audio. Which was fun because it meant that I could, like, look away and play Celeste and also still experience it. So we could do an entire episode on descriptive audio. But it reminded me of how much that I loved Les Mis by itself.
Yeah, what's really interesting to me is that we started out being like, oh, did you know that the musical is so much better than the movie? And me saying, I watched this video about how bad the movie was compared to the musical. I had already seen the movie. But, like, at the end, we were all, do you hear the people sing?
Yeah, well...
Oh, shit, my singing.
That's how I feel like I got Stockholm Syndromed into loving the movie.
Yeah.
Because, so, part of this is just me going to be talking about, like, Les Mis, and then also part of it's going to be talking about the movie versus musical adaptation.
So Joe's seen both. I've just seen the movie twice.
I've seen the movie multiple times. I've seen a more kind of visual musical performance, where, like, things act, like, that may sound rude, but, like, they actually, like, act out things. And then I've seen a live concert version, or a recording of a live concert version where it's just them singing.
Yeah.
So, first of all, to talk a bit about the plot in general, first of all, I love all the music in Les Mis. I don't think there's a single bad song. I think... I take that back. I don't even think it's a bad song. I just think it's disappointing. There is a song that Thénardier sings in the sewers that you don't hear in the movie. That I don't really like. That's probably just bias against Thénardier.
I can see it, yeah.
So, to be, like, objective, I think all of the music is, like, objectively good. And well done. Like, you have small songs, like, is it Drink With Me? Is that the name of the song? Hold on. This is why having, Google handy. Drink with me.
Right. I'd forgotten about this one. Yeah, that's it.
So, I think that song is, like, very minor in kind of the grand scheme of things.
But it's still super good.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it gets lost and, like, everyone's like, oh, I love Stars. I love Do You Hear the People Sing? This, that, and the other. And I think Les Mis has so many songs in it that don't, like, that don't get enough proper respect.
And the whole, like, ensemble of it really makes you care about the French Revolution, even though I know, like, none of the history.
Yeah. Well, and so the interesting thing is, if I remember correctly, this is not about the big French Revolution. It's about a smaller one that I think happens afterwards, after the big one.
I think so. I think I heard a little bit about it.
And so what's really interesting is, like, if you know history, you know they got fucked, like, really bad, which happens in Les Mis, too. But, like, even going into it, you feel kind of, like, optimistic that maybe it will be different.
Yeah.
I think, I don't know, there's, like, a lot of really minor stuff that I really love about it. A lot of the music kind of repeats itself.
Yeah, I didn't notice that until this last time I saw it. I think I've actually seen it 3 or 4 times.
Okay. I mean, that's fair.
But I became educated, and then I saw the patterns.
Yeah, and oh, God. There's a line in Jean Valjean's first song. I'm gonna look this up on my phone.
The Look Down song?
No, after that, because that's an ensemble thing.
You mean the
after he after he steals.
I don't know any of the song names.
It's like let me escape now from that world, from the world of Jean Valjean.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then his lyric is different, but that exact same lyric is done again in Javert's Suicide, which is
right. I didn't. Ow. I hurt myself. I didn't notice that until you just said that. Yeah.
There's a really good thing because like that's Jean Valjean lifting himself up, very literally in the movie too, because he like runs up to the top of that peak, and then that's Javert like just throwing himself down.
So it's the question of who is Jean Valjean.
Yeah,
and that's the 24601 thing also tied into that.
Who am I?
Yeah,
which is like,
what does he represent in history?
There's also a really good thing that you can talk about with religion here, in that like religion plays a huge part in it, in that like they are helped out by a priest, that Javert is very like religious, and that he's like, I'm a man of God, I need to find
this is God's will.
Yeah. But it's and Jean Valjean is also you don't see this as much in the movie, and it's really more in the book that you see it, but he's a very religious man after stealing the stuff, because he's like, God has saved me, and this kindness. So I think like one of the interesting things though is that it's kind of a nebulous religion more than it is like specifically Christianity, which is like a hot take, because Javert is like, if you fall as Lucifer fell, you'll fall in flames, when he's singing Stars, and you're like, oh, he said Lucifer, like obviously it's Christianity. But I think that it like the way it actually is used in the play is more like there is a higher divine power.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
That has like divine goodness, and then there is like straying from it, which is bad. And so it's just the way it's the way the morality is constructed, which I thought really interesting, because like it's one of those movies where things, just fiction, where you see it and you're like, oh, it's preaching about God, and it kind of is. But it's not so much like, hey, Jesus healed the blind.
No, yeah. I didn't get any, like, as someone who wasn't really raised religious and still isn't, I didn't get any, like, religious hostility or like, anything at all from that movie.
And that's like one of the things that I really like in fiction is, like, you can have religious characters or religious aspects and still not be, like, hostile about it.
Yeah, I think this did a super good job of that.
Yeah.
Because it's all about what it means to the characters individually, and you can see that for one, it's this very positive thing, and for another one, it's this motivation for revenge, or an excuse for revenge.
Well, and that's one of the things too, is that like Javert is one of those characters that you look at surface level, and then you look at deeper, and then you look at even deeper. Where oh no, session burp. Hold on. Oh God, that did not feel good. Oh, I apologize, dear listeners. What was I saying? Oh, so like Javert on the surface, you're like, oh, he wants revenge, and then you dig deeper, and you're like, well, no, not like he wants revenge, not specifically against Jean Valjean, but against like this idea of a person who does not face justice. And you're like, oh, he's a good character because he cares about justice. But then you go deeper and you're like, well, the things that Jean Valjean did, so like the initial crime is that he stole bread to eat.
Every time we've been talking about this, the relevant bit from the YTP.
I know. I think about it a lot.
Bread.
So he... First of all, like, stealing bread should not be a crime. Mm-hmm. Well, being able to eat should be a given.
Yes.
And therefore, stealing bread, if you cannot eat, is, like, a morally justifiable thing.
For sure.
And therefore, he shouldn't have been in prison in the first place. But then you might say, well, he shouldn't have tried to flee prison. But he was in prison wrongfully, so, like, it is understandable that he tries to flee prison.
And
then, like, well, he breaks his parole. Like, he's not a criminal. Like, it's fine that he breaks his parole. So you go deeper and you find out that, yes, Javert is an asshole.
And Javert's, like, whole identity as someone who is preserving this justice, once he starts to realize that justice is based upon pillars of sand, his own identity crumbles, and that's why
he kills himself.
That's why he has to die at that point.
Which I think Javert kind of redeems himself in that he realizes that he has been wrong the whole time.
I don't know if that counts as redeemed himself, because it's now action.
Yeah, I won't say redeems, but becomes a better character, at least for it.
He evolves.
Yes. There's something that a criticism I have of the movie, before I get actually into, like, the real criticisms and discussions of how everything interacts. In most stage plays, they are a lot better about having the voices fit the characters. So, Jean Valjean is he has a really booming voice, in most of the stage plays, and that's because he's very physically strong. That's how he gets caught. Mm-hmm. Is he picks up, like, a fucking wagon from that guy, and Javert's like, and then Javert is very kind of short and to the point, like, very sharp, and that's why in Fantine's arrest, he's like, who saw what and why and where. He, like, the delivery of the lines is, like, very clipped, and staccato. That's the word I'm looking for.
Yeah.
And so that gets his personality, and then, like, I don't know, like, there's just a lot of it that's kind of on the subconscious level that I can't really describe, but, like, you hear it and you're like, oh, that really does fit Eponine or Marius or whomever.
And you're saying that that's more evident in the play.
Yeah. Because in the movie, like, Russell Crowe is a booming baritone, but is also kind of clipped.
Yeah.
In his thing.
It's got a very distinct, and I'm Javert.
Yeah.
But, like, not what I did, because I'm not Russell Crowe.
Yeah.
So that was a terrible way for me to make that point.
God. So, I think that's,
you know what that means.
The base boost
of bread.
God.
Bread. No. Bread.
No.
If you all haven't seen Prisoner
24601 releases a sandwich on parole.
You got to. It's so good.
But so, and that's another thing with costuming that I thought the movie did really well, is that, and you see it in stage plays too, but, like, Javert's uniform is, like, it just got dry cleaned and, like, pressed and everything.
I remember you saying that while we were watching it. I was thinking about that as we were going.
So I also think it uses leitmotifs really well, and that Javert has, like, bum 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 bum.
And the da 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 da. That da da da. That fourth. Thank God I redeemed my music theory.
So I think if I were better at music theory and, like, had time to sit down, I could write a whole paper on, like, how each character has a certain leitmotif.
Yeah, and also, like, you were saying, like, certain style to their singing.
Yeah, and that's especially important in One Day More, magnum opus of probably that show. I think I like certain songs better, but I think it's just so good at showing who the characters are, because Marius and Cosette and Eponine have the and then Javert has the dun dun da 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 and very staccato, and the Thénardiers have ba da 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 and it mixes all these different styles, and everyone's kind of leitmotif.
That song is just like a wonderful. There's some music word. For how everything comes together, and it all interweaves in this beautiful thing.
I also think that like this is a show that does not have a lot of reprises. A lot of the music is similar for like thematic reasoning. I think the only reprise in the entire show is "Do You Hear the People Sing?"
Yeah.
What's it's the at the end of the day, because that because that shows up when we're introducing Fantine and everyone, and it also shows up right after the intermission, if I'm not mistaken. When there's the big time skip. That might be something that the movie only does. I don't remember.
I don't remember either. Or even in the movie, I don't remember.
Yeah. But, so, like, they're very careful about reusing stuff because, Do You Hear the People Sing goes from being, like, this song of the oppressed people fighting against their oppressors to the song of the people victorious in heaven singing, which was really good. What else do you want to say before I move on to like comparing and contrasting stuff?
Something that really, I think the biggest thing that struck me as I was watching this for however many times is, but although it's been a long time since I saw it in those consecutive bits, when we got to the time skip, I immediately thought, and I mentioned this to you, Joe, during the thing, like, why are we going into this like very like love triangle situation?
Yeah,
there's so little significance to the like this big like political plot, and then seeing Eponine, is that her name? Who died in the
yes,
barracks?
that is Eponine.
Seeing her die in the barracks, all of a sudden, like everyone's like, it became so clear to me in just this beautiful way why they had to have this more minor plot because of the way that it humanized the characters and it showed that they're fighting to have normal lives.
Yeah, right? and it also shows like Jean Valjean's kind of conviction and goodness because like he's kind of like, I want to protect Cosette, and he finds this letter that I know in the movie Gavroche gives to him.
Yes,
I don't remember who does it in the stage play. I think it's still Gavroche. That it's meant for Cosette, and he reads it and he's like, "Oh my God, my daughter is in love. I have to go save this man." And that's why God on High, or what is it? What's the song? Is it Let Him Live?
Something like that.
It's something like that. That's.
I'm sorry, I'm hitting my hand on this chair.
Make the loud sound of moving it. All right. That's one of the problems with Les Mis is like remembering what they're called because there's so many different like line fragments that could be the name of the song.
Yeah, which is amazing that they got all the English lyrics so iconic, even though it's not originally in English.
I don't think it's originally in English. I mean, Victor Hugo's novel is originally in French, and I feel like the musical was originally in French. But
I think so.
Am I? I feel like I might also be hallucinating that.
Maybe.
Uh-oh.
Oh, this last little thing I was going to say, I just remembered about this, the kind of epic scale of the first half, then this very personal scale of the second, and then of the third, not half.
Yeah.
In kind of combining these. I think that could be viewed as one of these, what are the dialectics, where you got the thesis, which is
the antithesis and the synthesis.
So the thesis is like, there is this big social problem that needs to be solved. Mm-hmm. The antithesis is
young love.
Which seems so unrelated, and then it's synthesized in the final act of the play in such a way that it's like just the clarity of the synthesis is just astounding, and like that was the thing that most stood out to me watching this movie.
That's also that's also the only reason that Marius survives is because like Marius would have died if Valjean had not saved him. And there's a really good mirror between Valjean convincing Javert to let him go to save Cosette, and Valjean successfully convincing Javert this time to let him go to save Marius.
I didn't think about that.
And I mean, the first one is really Valjean talking to Javert that Fantine needs a doctor.
Right.
But Javert does not know he's Valjean at that time, I don't think.
No, he doesn't.
So, like, there's that. This is one of those things that, like, I think if it had been done poorly, you would have been like, oh, of course, it's referencing this earlier. But it does it so, like, fluidly.
Yeah, that's a really big virtue of this. At least the movie, and I imagine the play too.
Yeah.
It's got these huge themes, but it kind of hides them in such a way that everything, like you said, is fluid. And it allows the themes to be expressed more gracefully.
Yeah. All right, so I'm ready to talk about the differences and adaptations.
Sure.
So, firstly, the movie, despite kind of padding stuff with, like, less singing, and there's kind of just discussion in some places, is, I think, shorter than the full chorus live theater musical, because they cut out a couple of songs and they cut some songs short. I think the big thing of the movie is that it is a movie, whereas
love that. The big thing of the movie is
yeah,
that it is a movie.
Well, like, with a stage play, you don't really have big set pieces or like complex ones, because for an example, like in South Pacific, you see this house, and like as long as the house backdrop is there, you are meant to understand that it is occurring in the house or around the house.
Yeah.
And so it can be like a bunch of different places, whereas the movie shows everything. And so for the stage play of Les Mis, they have kind of just stand-ins, and for the live choral thing, they just don't have anything.
It's just all audio.
Yeah. And then because of that, I just lost the thought. Fuck. There's a lot of kind of showing that I think actually works to the detriment of the movie. For a couple of things. So when Fantine is working in the shop and gets fired in both the stage play and in the performance,
the choral.
Yeah, the choral kind of performance. I keep losing words during this discussion.
Yeah, we just came back from D&D, by the way.
Oh, that's true. But so in both of those, it is you have the chorus of everyone singing, and then you have a spotlight placed on one small little area of workers, which is just like how it's done in musicals.
Right. Yeah.
But in the movie, you get these kind of sweeping shots of everyone, and then you focus in on them. And I think that hurts the movie because it's focusing on them rather than saying they are a small part of this large thing that you can still see in
I
stage
can see
productions.
that, yeah.
There's also... So, the big thing that everyone complains about the movie is that the singing is not as good, and that, like, they were singing while acting. That it wasn't redubbed.
Right.
So there's some like out of breath, and when Javert and Valjean are fighting, and you can hear like the swords ding during the song, it's very peculiar.
See, like it doesn't bother me, but then again, I haven't seen the play, so I don't know how good
I
get.
But so that's just odd to do. Period. Like I think that's the first time they did that for a movie musical. And I think Tom Hooper, the person who did Les Mis, also did it for Cats.
Yeah, I think I heard about this when I watched that video about Cats.
From Lindsay Ellis?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been watching, or I've been listening to videos while doing Deathless runs, and that came up and reminded me. There's also... there are some songs, or there are some lyrics that are half sung.
Yeah.
And while that still exists in all the other forms, because they're trained singers, it sounds more natural and better. Especially because in the movie, there are just spoken lines of dialogue.
So you enter a kind of uncanny valley. And
you
don't in the stage play.
Because everything in the stage play is sung. And one of the really interesting things... for the full like chorus production kind of thing where there isn't any action is that they'll just like remind you or put up on screen like Valjean gets the better of Javert and rushes off with Cosette. And
like an audio description.
Yeah, and that's genuinely a better experience in my opinion because there's that scene of in the movie of Valjean just being like, "Oh, Cosette, you're a small girl. I'm gonna rescue you from the woods." Some people just walked outside my dorm
by the woods.
Yeah, and it freaked me out. I had the animal like I've seen motion, I'm scared thing. So I think the one good thing, and I said this when we were watching it, that occurs from having it not be redubbed is that Anne Hathaway singing her big song sounds like actually more in pain and like a person dying than it does in the stage play or anything. And I thought that was like the one benefit.
I think for the most part, though, often it's a good general rule to not embrace ultra realism unless you really know what you're doing.
And that's something that I thought like was bad for Cats.
Yes.
That's something that I thought La La Land skirted really well, is because it had
also agree.
Like demarcations between the hyper realistic and these huge fantasy things.
I think the theme we're hitting on is the avoiding the uncanny valley.
Shape of Water does that too, I think.
I haven't seen that.
There's a scene where it's black and white and she's dancing with the fishmen in like a very like unnatural kind of thing. That kind of jolts you out of it and you're like, oh, this isn't completely Uncanny Valley stylized.
Your brain really understands, like it's a clear visual cue.
Yeah, and I don't think, like, I think you can have movies that are Uncanny Valley, like Pan's Labyrinth is pretty, like, it is played pretty straight even with all of the special effects. But that's because Guillermo del Toro knows what he's doing.
I feel like Pan's Labyrinth is a little bit of a weird example because it's just like so expertly crafted.
Yeah, I don't know. There are some big changes that I had been thinking about when watching the movie and I wasn't sure about. But in the movie, when Valjean dies, he is only greeted by Fantine, who's like, come with me, come to heaven. And in the stage play, he is also greeted by Eponine, which I thought was a better end to her story, and I thought was also a really strong thing in that, off the cuff you might be like, well, he's never met Eponine, why is she there? But the point is, like, these two good souls are trying to guide. It's like Virgil in the Inferno.
I don't know the Inferno.
It's just like you have this good soul. Well, Virgil's kind of a bad soul, but that's just because he lived before Christ, according to Dante. But like you have this guide for you of pure goodness. There's another character in the Inferno, and it's in Paradiso, that guides him through the heavens. It's like the girl that he's simping for. I promise that's not a joke. But like these, because with Fantine, when it's just Fantine, you're like, oh, it's a personal kind of, like, he made this promise to her, which he did. But with Eponine, it's like, oh, it's kind of like going to God with these people looking over you.
Oh, yeah, I could see that.
They do some chronology weird, compared to the stage play. If I'm remembering correctly, in the stage play, Valjean does not tell Marius who he is, and is confronted about it on his deathbed, because remember when the Thénardiers showed him the ring? That's when he finds out in the stage play, I think.
But in the movie, he just finds out.
He just tells him.
Yeah.
And I thought that was a lot stronger send-off in the stage play, because, like, they're finding out now, because he has, like, his last will and testament written in the letter. That's kind of explaining everything. The movie also cuts out some... I already said it cuts out a song. I think it cuts out one or two more, actually. And it cuts out a lot, like fragments of other ones. it cuts out like half of Javert's suicide, which I mean is not a kid-friendly thing to show in a movie. So I guess they cut out a huge portion of the opening song. A lot of the individual prisoners get longer lines in the stage play. There's one thing.
I'm cocking my back.
Yeah.
Sorry.
All right, we couldn't hear it. It
didn't work. I did not succeed.
Finn is a failure.
It worked a little bit.
There's one thing in the movie that I thought was a good addition, which is Gavroche's song. Not his first one, where he's like expositing, but yeah, that one is just like given to the people. That's another thing in the Lindsay Ellis video is that like in the stage play and everything, he is singing that to the audience to tell them what is going on. But in the movie, the first half of it, he's singing to just some rich guy,
right? And
then he's also singing to the audience. It's very odd, but
yeah.
When the puck bites or whatever it's called,
yes,
the one where Gavroche dies is like placed in a different time in the movie than in the stage play. That works out better, I think.
In the stage play?
No, in the movie.
In the movie.
Because it's much better like showing Gavroche struggling and really trying to do this one good thing and then kind of dying like innocently. And then in the stage play, he just kind of sings it. So, I don't know. Like the movie has such good cinematography and looks so beautiful. And honestly, if they were like saying, "Hey, we're going to do a Les Mis adaptation, but there's no music. It's just going to be like the story, and we're going to have these visuals," I would have been like, "Nice! Like it's going to look really pretty." And get people into Les Mis, but they had the singing and like, Russell Crowe and Hugh Jackman and Anne Hathaway like are not singers, and they did and Eddie Redmayne all did like a serviceable job for not being trained to be singers. I just think it was like an odd decision for a musical that is so thoroughly sung to
not have professional singers.
Yeah, because like. Spamalot is a musical that is not sung all the way through. Or like, well, a really good one is Forever Plaid, where there's a lot of dialogue because it is four dead guys telling us what has happened, and they have to keep like expositing, and they're talking to each other, they're making jokes, and so that's not sung through. Whereas like Les Mis, Cats is another one that is completely sung through. I think Phantom is too, but I could be mistaken.
Hamilton.
Yeah. And so having versions of those where there's dialogue is a bit uncanny. I don't know. I think Les Mis like being sung through is really good because even though you might like, if you're just listening to the audio track, you might not know how Valjean gets away from Javert. But, like, I just think it carries itself so well.
I think I'm running out of energy pretty fast.
My throat is starting to hurt.
Thank you for carrying this episode. I'm a bit worn out from DMing.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. Finn, so a little spoilers for those of you who either aren't watching or, like, this will come out before. I don't know if that's true, actually.
D&D will come out tomorrow.
Okay.
This will come out also tomorrow.
So if you're listening to this first, a little bit of a spoiler, but like Finn had to play like 6 characters and also run the downtime activities for us all. And like the simplest downtime activities, I think, were Fonk committing crime.
Yeah. Although most people had like understood the system better than I did and knew how it.
That's 100% true. It was just a lot because like
I think what took it out of me the most was trying to play all the characters.
Yeah. I'm excited for all of them. I'm so excited for Captain.
Me too. Something will happen with him.
I don't know what.
I don't know what either.
I don't think anyone does. Maybe Chris does.
I don't think Chris does.
Chris will at some point. No.
Maybe. All right. I think we're out of Lana's land.
Yeah. Go listen to the 10th anniversary of it.
Oh right, yeah. So Joe sent me the some audio from that.
Yeah, well, I sent you the whole
thing.
The whole thing.
I have not done that yet. I need to do that.
Les Mis, the movie, is on Netflix. As for seeing like kind of a stage show where there is visuals and also just like the pure singing,
Unknown.
I don't know what to tell y'all.
I also recommend watching with audio description. It's very good with audio description.
Yeah, that kind of threw me for a loop because like usually that would not be the case because like it would be cutting through songs or everything, but it kind of explains things in a way that make it a bit more clear.
I think I might actually just like in general like movies with audio description more than not.
That might be.
It helps me comprehend what's happening.
Yeah, Finn is incapable of basic comprehension.
Yeah, my pain.
All right. Plugs.
So listen to the other podcasts on the network at Spreaker.com/user/PNWM. We need to pay dues in order to keep our podcast.
We do?
Going. Yeah, I got an email about it. It's like $10 or something.
Don't we have to pay $5 because isn't it that like we can also host ourselves? Wasn't that a thing last year?
Yeah. Well, so I've got the email, so I can send that to you.
That's fine.
Also, leave us a rating and review on the podcast app /iTunes Store. We've got a subreddit for talking about episodes, which is r/foolsandfiction. Send us an email at foolsandfiction@gmail.com. I think that's it.
If you want to come on the podcast, let us know.
Yeah, for sure.
It is simultaneously easier and harder to have people on than ever before because we can have people on like through Discord or whatever, but the audio right now should be at least a bit better than it's been in the past because it is Finn and I recording in the same room. Whereas like for other stuff, it's very dependent on like what my room, what Finn's room, what guest room is on.
And also the lack of internet dependence is very good.
Yeah. And then, do I have anything else to do before I end them?
I don't think so.
All right. How close can I get to your mic legally?
It's fine.
All right. No, fuck. Hold on. Stay. Goodbye. Please, for the love of God, turn the podcast off.